Ooh, let's just shuffle this around a bit. Well, good old Gustav, in his lovely words, reminded me that I should record some of these things whilst they can, or they can be preserved and put on YouTube. So I'm gonna have a go for it. And this one has been a bit of a beef in my bonnet for a little while because there are a number of things that I find inherently wrong with it. That's not to say that anyone here is particularly at fault. I think some of the content is reasonably well reasoned, but it's not exactly correct. And I think I'm going to put it correct. As I said, this is not a critique of individuals. This is a critique of well, critique in a way. It's actually getting it right as opposed to not quite getting it right. And if you've seen the title, then it's the review that Michael, who runs a lot of the Facebook and Discord stuff on a day-to-day basis and did BT Tactics. Peter, who is the admin for BT, the Facebook site, and Discord, though he's not around us so much, and my good friend Gustav did with Travis. At the end of one of their very first, I think it might even be the first recording that was done, and just got the video downloaded. I'm just going to run through it, and I'm going to try and not be harsh, but point out where the errors are and try and back that up with some realistic reasons for them, or for the particulars, and try and shed a little more light on it and get it right, as opposed to at the moment where it's only 60%, it's 6 out of 10, and I'd much rather it was 10 out of 10. So this is kind of my version with reasons for it. We'll see if you like it, see if you hate it. So anyway, I'm just going to play the video, and we'll stop at various points, and I'll point out various things. So let's see what we've got.
Speaking of deck construction, one thing that I'd be really interested in is hearing Gustav and Peter deconstruct some tier 1 deck and explain why the bits are in it.
Okay. Tier 1 deck, I'm not so sure, but we'll let you draw your own conclusions.
That are
why there. That is a good mech.
Or why a person did what they did. Like, why are these cards here?
That's more interesting.
Michael, pick that deck, all right? This is going to be our last thing, all right? I think I know which one because we talked about this before.
I'm going to pick
the Gorgemaster?
The Gorgemaster. I want you guys to explain how the Gorgemaster works and why it works. Because the first time I saw this thing, I did not understand it. And it opened up doors in my mind to how you might build a deck that were completely closed before.
Now, I'll pop that up on the screen so viewers can watch.
So
you guys don't have to worry about
from 1999. And what did it place in 2000?
It didn't play in 2000. It placed first in 1999. Whether that was a strong showing or not, we'll have a look at because we got the battle report. It wasn't played again. The 1999 tournament with about 60. No, it wasn't. It was 53 players as the last reasonably large tournament. I believe the 2000 version only had about 13 to 15 type of players and was a lot smaller.
It's a first place winner in 99, and I don't know who played it.
Right.
Yeah, this is a really good teaching deck, actually.
I'm going to clear that up here and now. I don't know who played it. So here we are on the screen. This is taken from the BattleTech Digest. So going back before there were forums and web pages and all the other things, people were embracing email. It was great. But how did you send one email to lots of people and not spam them? Well, you posted to a thing called a list server. And the list server would collate all the posts of that day and then send them out to all of the subscribers on the following day in one email. So you didn't spam everybody. And BattleTech had its own list server back in the day, and you would get the regular ones. So you can see that this was August the 10th to August the 11th. And scrolling down here, we have a post from Tim Davis, who was involved in a lot of the stuff. He kind of ended up being an unofficial trumpet. And his post says, first place, Tom Shyster Smith with the Marek Gorgemaster. And if any of you have looked at the World Championship decks that are on the Facebook site, it should now have those in there. Michael has recently added them. Chad Loser Edwards was second. Dave, no suit for you. Hymus, the wonderful Swarm player, came third with Boom Wolf. Yick, got to give the guy credit. Top 4, 3 years running, never won it. Bit of a travesty, really. A very good player. Alan used to go by the name of Grenadier Goppin, if I remember rightly. Jason Bryan, Chris Lightmap Warrior, and Mike Bodie. Now, for those of you that like the Wayback Machine, hint Gustav, there is a full list of all of the showings. You might know a few names here. Peter Sundholm was 9th. Yeah. Mark Sickerman played a lot. Tony Miracle, Tome, Ben Moffat, okay, The Blob or Psycho 122. Eric Ortega, Mark Marquez, great name. He played an awful lot. Joe Madeira, Bill Matthews, Marcus Zalay, who used to go by the moniker of Stormcrow, Tim Davis. There are a lot of people here. Craig Squire used to go by the name of Cab Hammer. Sigmund Lamb, another player who made top 8 in the first year, if I remember rightly, or one of the previous years. And good old Donald Lim, the man that invented the mechless deck down the bottom here. Omar Goni is Shyster's cousin and also played in that particular tournament. So there is a full-on list there of all of the people. So that's a known quantity.
Look at the name, the cards that are included in there that we ended up wanting to include in that Inner Sphere deck.
All right. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the unit selection or the other card selection or what?
Let's start with the unit selection because that's the background, and then that'll explain the other cards as well as the resource choices.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think I've played this game or this deck a handful of times. The core is definitely the C3. You know, it takes full advantage of access to Owens and Owens Revised.
Okay. Travis, very new at the time. Owens Revised. They are different. They are wrong. Okay. So here's your Owens. This is the Owens Revised 1D. That's the 3-cost Kurita variant. Rare as gold-covered rocking horse doo-doo in physical format. Getting hold of 6 of those was practically impossible. If we find Lackey, what have I done with Lackey? Have I turned Lackey off? Here's Lackey. So here's our Owens. Here's our Owens Revised. Is there anything between them? Well, the Owens Revised doesn't have jump. The original Owens didn't have jump. Well, the actual board game mech didn't have jump. They printed it with a jump. The Owens Revised doesn't have jump. Okay, this is the jump version of the 1D, and then there's the non-jump version of the 1D. So where Travis has got the 3-cost here, this is incorrect. The deck list has got Owens Revised, OW1. There are 3 of them and those are the non-jump versions, which probably has an influence on the rocky, not the rocky gorge, the risky combat jumps that are used later.
Give itself.
Yeah, we generally consider that not permitted anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yes and no. By the last DCI rulings or Wizards of the Coast rulings, the Owens revised, and the Owens were separate mechs and could be used, which is why there was a 24 Owens mech deck. Nobody ever had one because, as I said, the Owens 1D, the rare one, was impossible to get more than 2 copies of ever. You know, you have to sell your wife and your daughter and your soul and practically most of your county in order to get a second one or a third one. Most people don't play with, or they just say that the revised version supersedes the original Owens, which will, in a number of cases, that makes a lot of sense. That shouldn't take place with the organised play stuff. Travis has gone off and slapped revised on anything he wants to, and then that just confuses things for me. Stay with the original format and probably just use the revised versions instead of the originals.
Well, back then it was A-OK. So he's got the fire starters,
right.
the Owens, and the Owens revised, and
Those fire starters with ECM, huge.
Yeah. So the great thing here is the fire starter. This is the one that we're talking about here. This ECM C3. Let me get the right one here. Here it is, 162 jump ECM C3 long range 1. I mean, that's a lot of options, and that's one of the great things about the deck is there's options on anything. The ECM makes it effectively a 2/6, and it also makes the Owens a 1/6, and +2 on everything because of C3. With the Owens having 1 attack, makes the fire starter and the Owens quite a potent combo because you can kill resources with it. The other fire starter, the Crusade one, is a 1/6/3. Nice again. You can combo that with an Owens to make 4, and then add something else into there as well. You know, maybe 2 of them, for example, to make 7. But it also has overheat, 3+1. It's quite harsh, but does 3 damage to itself, and it's got jump as well. So a lot of jumping mechs. Remember that the Owens revised doesn't jump.
yes.
Huge.
Yeah.
And the other one actually is pretty good too. I have a Merrick deck. The very first deck I usually take against people is usually has a fire starter in it.
It's a decent
Very
mech.
solid mech for its costs.
So we're looking at the Firestarter FS9 OF.
Yeah.
That's a 1/6/3 with an overheat 3+1 and jump, which is
Right.
Nice because we'll talk about that in the other cards that he has in there.
Yeah, no, it's
What's interesting
basically-
here to me is that the C3 deck theme seems relatively weak. I mean, yes, he's got his 9 Owenses, so he's got 13 C3 mechs out of a rough 24. That seems low. When I build C3 decks, I tend to assume that I'm building them with all units having C3, or at least most units. But he's got barely more than half of his units use C3. That seems weird to me.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's Southern California deck style. It was in their area. That's how they played, and the main reasons for it are actually clan. The Phantom Boom Wolf deck, which is one of the other things that was in the meta at the time, only requires 6 damage to kill a Phantom. You put 2 Owens against it, it kills the Phantom, which is a 4-5 cost mech, arguably, against 2 cost Owenses, and the Owenses survive. So the Owenses are here as a fast screen, and the fact that you're going to have to double up with them is fine. Your other options with your fire starter, 7 kill a resource, so it gives you lots of flexibility. You know, two fire starters coming over at 8 and effectively a 2/6/4. 2 of them is quite beefy. And the other one that will come in here is the Saladins. So he's got 9 Owenses and 4 Saladins. There were originally 5, but he took one out to put a Gorge in, which gave him a lot of fast cover. So that gives him a solid base against clan. The other things that work really well with this are Overwhelm, which gives +2 to all the units, provided you focus on one attacker or defender. That again is a great clan card. Your Owens can deal with not only the Fenrises and your Phantoms, but with the +2 on top, it means you can actually get 10 out of an Owens, which is enough to kill a man of 2 of those, and an Overwhelm is enough to kill something like a Man of War or some of the other big things floating around. And if you've got your normal ones, not your revised ones, which don't jump, then your risky combat jump gives you another load of damage boost on that. So yes, the Owens stroke C3 level is quite small, but it's quite focused and it's there to do a job, which is basically your fast screen and possibly resource hunt later if you need it. Or because the fire starters have got ECM, then it just gives everything 1 armor, which is again very strong. And one of the things they'll say is about all of this is everything here has got an option. Everything here has got 1, 2, possibly 3 options, and it gives a lot of flexibility to the deck.
Well, if you look at the generic Innisphere units with C3, because that's all that Merrick has access to, I believe. I mean, your only quality stuff there is the Owens and the Firestarter. The Cyclops is okay.
Okay, so the Cyclops is okay. It's a 3/6/4 slow at 5.
Okay, but it's pretty expensive for what it does.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the blackjack?
Slow.
One's
Yeah, Cyclops is slow. It's 3/6, which is 9. The Blackjack's a 1/7. It's 8 damage. The difference between the two is actually not as much as they make out. If you're going to go hunting, you're going to go hunting. The thing I like about the Blackjack is there's no cost buyout. You get acid stung, then, loads of A's, loads of T's. Put your Blackjack out. Jump, C3, long range 3. 2 of these coming across for 10. I think this is better than what they say. I think it's worth playing. If you're not sure, try it, play it, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Kick it out, your choice. But I would definitely say experiment with that and try it. I think it's a bit better than what these guys have said. I kind of agree with Michael where he says, "What's wrong with it?" And they say it's slow. Well, okay, so's the Cyclops.
7, it's slow. Yeah, it can get hunted by itself, and by itself, it only has 3 base attack. It's not worth it.
And then you look at the other.
Hold on a second. The other thing you can say with the Cyclops is it doesn't jump. You can't play risky on it.
Mechs in here are all very good on their own. They don't need any support to function. The Huron Warriors, the Firestarters, the Saladins, Galaglass, Anvil Revised, they're really good mechs.
Okay, let's just pause and look at that again. So where have we got? We've got the Huron Warrior. 4282T, 183, overheat 1, long range 1, medium speed, very durable at medium speed. Couple of options. The Galaglasses, they're slow. They're a 284. Overheat 1, jump, long range. Compare that to your Cyclops, 3/6/4, 2/8, 3/6. Okay, there's a little extra point in it. 4, C3, long range. Jump be the reason for it. Yeah. And then the Firestarter, which we talked about. The Anvil on here is the revised Anvil. It's a 2/6/4 jump ECM. There is 1 in the deck, and the reason for that being in the deck is elementals. It's there to hunt elemental points on its own. At 4 damage, it can kill them. Okay, that's why it's there.
We only got 1 Anvil revised.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me. I don't know if he would have modified that in the future. I would have taken Anvil Revised over both the Galaglass and the Ronda's Highlander.
The Anvil Revised, it's Shyster's Anvil. It's kind of like I think this is Shyster's deck. And
That's it, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, and it's kind of like his signature deck and the name of the deck. So I think that it's it's his choice, his preferred choice. Now, Ronda's Highlander is interesting in that it has that hugely overcosted one missile, but it has the built-in intimidating paint job, just like the Widowmaker, just like um, the Yanlo Wang, and that by itself has the ability to turn a battle. And it has no problem fighting on its own.
True. Trouble is, the games were that fast it didn't even hit the table. When you read the battle report, all Shyster ever did was take it out and put in the Saladin or something else like a Rocky Gorge that he'd sideboarded. At 7 cost, it's too slow, and in a World Championship, never going to hit the table.
He doesn't have munitions. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong deck. He does have munitions.
Yeah, he
I
does.
apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, he has to have munitions.
I apologize. Yep.
So the Saladins, of course, are the bane of all dashers. That's why we have the 4 Saladins. A 0 cost, free deploy, fast, that can do 3 damage, is a huge boon. I understand why some people choose to play 6. Because of his fast mech choices, it's better for him. I might even have 4 Owen revives. I've built the Evil Owens deck.
Wrong Owens again, I'm afraid.
And had 12 Owens in my deck before. If you're going for having that fast bonus with C3, the double Owens attacking at the same time is great. Sometimes the choices to put in, I like is it Mech Warrior and Commander's Edition have the Gearhead. 1 Gearhead on there puts you at the magic number 7 between the 2 of them.
Forget that. Junk the Gearhead.
It's pretty nice.
I think Merrick too might even have access to
Chaos March Veteran.
Chaos March Veteran, yeah. So
absolutely. You and I are thinking the same language, Peter.
I actually kind of agree. The Saladin's pretty good against the Dashers, but in most of he doesn't really need it. With 9, it'd be even more Owens if he jumps Saladins. And they're not great in the other matchups. They're okay. And they can be a good damage boost, but I'm not sure he actually needs the full 4. Certainly doesn't need 6. But I might cut that to 3.
I think
and add another Owens. Make it 10 Owens and drop the Saladins down to 3.
I know. I would disagree. I think the Saladins are great because if you get a Saladin first round, it's like first round dash where you destroy a person's card under construction. Except that it's a free deploy, cheaper version of it. Yes, you lose the Saladin for the next round, but that's no big shakes, right?
Right.
Well, on an open board, you always want to alpha strike it anyway because it does more damage that way. 3 every other turn is better than 1 every turn.
Right. Okay. I'm with Michael here that the Saladin is great. When you read Shyster's report, he actually had 5 Saladins in the deck. He took 1 out for a Rocky Gorge. Peter saying about alpha striking it for 3 is better than 1 a turn. I disagree on that. I think yes, you can alpha strike it for 3, and if there's something like a card under construction, and you want to kill it because it's got 1 counter on it, then for God's sake, go and alpha strike it. However, you might entertain the fact that I can do 1 this turn, and then what he pulls out next turn, I can block, or I can block the turn after, or I can hit him for another 1 and hit him for another 1. Whereas if it's depleted, you've got to undeplete it or reload it. Then you've got to untap it. It's effectively out of the game for the same amount of time as it does damage. You could do 1 on each turn for the 2 turns, as well as the original turn that you've actually repaired it and reloaded it and then untapped it. So on an open board, no, I'm not sure. I think I'd want the flexibility to be able to block. I can still do 3 damage, 1 each turn. It's just I can't do it straight away. Hand dependent, but I wouldn't take that as a definitive. I think if it's a card in construction with a counter on it, yes, alpha strike it every time. The other times, think about it.
Especially considering that its odds of dying are sufficiently high in any engagement. Yeah, you alpha strike a Saladin every turn. So no, I definitely agree that the Saladins are a great choice because of course you play your first match and you get that Saladin out and you knock the other person's card under construction out. They know you're playing Inner Sphere, So they're like, oh, I can put if I'm going second, I can do one and then tap to put a resource on. Because I know he doesn't have any dashers because he's an Innisphere player, and out comes the Saladin and whoops it. And then the next time they're a little more cautious. I see the value of that for sure.
Saladin doesn't dash, does it?
No, it doesn't, but it's a free to play that
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It's free to play,
No.
but it's still like you get it out first turn then. Can you do that?
Yeah, you can drop it turn
Yeah.
one. Just
Turn
drop
one.
it, and then the munitions.
Yep. You play the free to play first, and then
Yeah,
you
that's
get
right.
the
Yes.
munitions.
Free to
afterwards, and
play
it's the top of the first
munitions,
turn,
there
which
it
is why
goes.
it deters that evil dasher.
Yep.
So let's move on to the medium speed. I mean, we talked about the fire starters. The Huron Warrior, with the AT buyout forecast.
This seems like a reasonable mech. Nothing, no great shakes, but solid.
Solid is the word. 8 structure. It's got more structure than a man of war. Nearly as much structure as a Mad Cat. It's very durable.
I look at it as just look, it has good options. Most of the time, I just assume it's going to overheat. So it's an 8 hit point mech that does 4 damage that can occasionally make itself tougher.
Yep.
And that it looks a lot better when you look at it that way.
Yep. And if they chump, so you still get one to the stockpile.
Yep.
That's a bonus.
Yep. It's a good mech. I would have replaced the 2 Gallo glasses with 2 more anvils personally.
I think the Gallaglass is an interesting call. I'm not sure. It's tough to know what his meta was. Like, I'm looking through this deck, and I think he looks like he's scared to death of clan decks.
Oh yeah, we're going to do the meta. As soon as I find the file, which I thought I'd got ready, and haven't, it's not there. Give me a second, because I had this one stashed away. Metadex. Here we go. So, this is Shyster's analysis himself. Tom Shyster Smith wrote this post to the Battletech Digest a couple of weeks afterwards, 15th of August. Okay, so he says, we saw a huge variety of decks. Free deploy Santos, Alliance or Comstar. Free deploy Swarm, Alliance or Comstar. Merchant Cast or Trader Wolf. 28 resources. AL&T works best. Steel Viper or Jade Falcon. Double overtime Gunslinger Thunderhawk or Gladiator Prime to Turkey Sea. Davian Alliance Pilot. Kai being great. Good old Dash Elemental. Smokejag Missile. He says he's always a threat. I think there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek in there. I would like to have known anyone that played Smokejag Missile in that format. The Dash and Boom Wolf, always a top 8 deck. Yeah, Peter's played that and pulled that. And what have you. C3 form with Fanatical Leaders and Mission Cards. I'm not quite so sure about that. And then there's his version. Mission Cards are some good, as he calls it. Not played by very many people at Worlds. It's been a very popular deck in Southern California. Sam Ghost, Rifle me won 2 qualifiers last year with this type of deck. 22 resources, 26 mechs at 2 to 6 cost, 12 mission cards. 2 qualifiers. Again, it depends on who's in the local area, not to take anything away from anyone. Chris Buckdew DeMeo, recognised player and good player. Also ranked in the top 10, never really played anything else. We used to take the mick out of him because he can't play clan. Shyster went with a sturdier version for Worlds with 23 raw resources, 27 units, 9 mission cards, and Rocky Gorge. Still the same concepts as the Southern Cali deck. Units with jump and good armor, and those pesky mission cards that save your mechs just at the right time. That was the meta. You can see it in the decks. If you go and look at the World Championship decks, they're all in there. They're all featured. That's what was being played around.
Because, I mean, outside of the Saladins and the Owens, he also has main deck Gorges, main deck falsified maps, 2 more Gorges in the sideboard, and another Saladin.
Yep.
He doesn't have main deck falsified maps, but he does have 3 in his sideboard.
Yeah. So what he's thinking is, look, people are going to be playing clan fast decks, hunt down, or they're going to be playing clan decks where I need to have a Gorge down, and then I map for a second Gorge, and I take out all of his elemental.
sorry guys, major fundamental error here. The Gorges are not there for clan. Okay? They're there and they are useful against clan. And when you look at what was sideboarded in, he would probably sideboard in one map and two maps and a gorge. So you'd have a deck with 2 maps and 2 gorges in to help against clan. Bear in mind that we're talking exclusively pretty much about Boom Wolf here. So 6 Dasher Primes, 6 Fenris Primes, 6 Phantom Bs, 6 Phantom As. The Dave Hymas deck, which came third. Okay. But he's reasonably well teched for it anyway. He's got 2 Overwhelms, he's got 2 Rocky Gorges, he's got some defensive missions in there, he's got ECM on the fire starters, and some durability. He's actually got a pretty good deck against clan without the Gorge. The main deck Gorge was originally a Saladin. That would have given him 5 Saladins and 9 Owens. That gives him 14 fast mechs, which is probably enough to cover the board and then send all the medium and heavy stuff over at the other guy's stockpile. It's probably good enough to cover most clan decks. And when you read it, he wasn't worried about clan decks, really. He's got the tools there already to deal with them. So I have to disagree with what Peter and Gus are saying at this point. Yes, Gorge is good against clan decks, but that's not why it was here.
That's why there are so many Gorges and maps in that deck, is that the iteration on how you play out the maps in the Gorge is such that you can get 4 damage to every attacking mech.
So we should explain that. The idea is that someone's attacking.
Yes, you can do it, but it wasn't ruled until after Worlds. This didn't make the history. It didn't make the questions. It wasn't even ruled out at Worlds. Nobody played it that way. It wasn't until 3 or 4 months later, when someone tried to do it, that there was a ruling on it.
You've got a Rocky Gorge. It does 2 damage to every attacking mech, and then when it's your turn, so you play the ability of the Rocky Gorge, and then you play falsified maps to go and get a new terrain. Guess what? It's another Rocky Gorge. You put it down. You replace the previous Rocky Gorge, and you play its ability as well. And now you've done 4 damage to every attacker.
Yes.
It's a bit of an unthematic combination, but it's fun.
What's the benefit of doing 4 to a Dasher instead of 2? Okay, might be a bit situational, and you want to pump a bit more into the Phantoms and other stuffs. What's the benefit of giving 4 damage to a Dasher over 2?
It's winning against clan is what it is. It's winning against clan.
Right.
He can win against clan without it. It's a nice addition.
That sounds like the things that they did to beat the clans. It's definitely Comstar. That's Anastasia's Fox. Got written all over it right there.
Right.
Like, coming to my Rocky Gorge. Well, I've got a Rocky Gorge on my Rocky
Gorge.
Gorge.
Rocky Gorges. So.
And you could jump. I mean, these mechs have jump, so you can play it and surprise them.
Rocky Gorge is one of the few cards in the game that is not just an excellent tool against swarm decks and fast decks, like Dasher decks, but it's also a good card to have in your deck anyway. Right?
I think that's a pretty fair assumption. I'm not convinced against fast decks. The only reason that comes into play is you put it on your stock, and the fasts are going to get through because you haven't got the speed to block them. But the Gorge is pretty good against everything, or a lot of things, is a fair comment, and that's why it's good against clan, but it's not the reason that it's here. You could arguably make the same case for Fog Shrouded Moors. The difference is that Gorge does damage, and therefore it forces a vehicle die roll, whereas Fog Shrouded Moors prevents damage and gives you more life, effectively, as your stockpile doesn't take as much hit. But the die roll could be decisive, and you've got nothing to lose, effectively, which is why most players tend to prefer it over something else.
It's good. It's decent all the time, and exceptionally good some of the time.
More or less, I feel right now at the tournament level, Falsified Map and Rocky Gorge should both be in your main deck of just about every deck.
Why? Are you scared of Clan? Apparently you are. Why? I want to know why it should be in every deck. Yes, it's pretty good, but are there better focus cards?
Because the only matchup I think it's even subpar in is against Clan Big Mac.
Good reason not to put it in.
You are always going to be happy when you see those cards in your hand. You're always going to be happy, at least in competitive play.
Yeah. I mean, the game right now is so fast and low to the ground. We have dashers, elementals, vehicles, and it just crushes all of them. And in a lot of cases, it's the only thing that crushes all of them. So yeah.
What's the price right now on a falsified map?
I'm sure the people that are selling it have no idea what it's worth.
Yeah, there are some cards out there that are valuable and expensive because they're not only rare, but they also are the only way to accomplish a certain goal. So if you think about cards as having like a substitution value, so for example, the Black Lantern Prime is a cool rare and it does some cool stuff, but the substitution value is if I wanted a Black Lantern Prime, I could play Jade Falcon and use a Black Lantern A, and that's a common card. And so
or Grendel Prime.
Or Grendel Prime, which is another common card. So the dollar value of a Black Lantern Prime is never going to be that high. But with falsified maps and with Hasty Alliance as another example, there is no other way. There's no like cheap rent way of doing what they do. There's only the expensive way. And so if you want to go scan a copy of the thing and use your color printer and solve your problem that way, I don't think anybody's going to be upset.
I think there are alternatives to Hasty Alliance. I think falsified maps is fair.
This game is dead. Proxies are completely fine.
Yeah.
Completely fine. I have no problem playing with proxies against anybody that sits across my kitchen table.
If they were to be able to get to an island in Alaska.
In the Pacific, correct.
All right. So what about so we talked about the mix. Let's talk about the other cards.
So let me say about this, because you said this was a good deck to learn on. I actually learned a lot from this deck as well. And you see he's running, it's basically a singleton mission strategy.
Is it a good deck to learn on? No. It's not easy to play. Is it a good deck to learn from? Yes, if you have experience. I would not stick this in front of a new player and say, go have some fun with it and see what you can come up with, because it's not an easy deck to play. And when you read the battle reports, it's not a perfect deck. It lost. Okay? And in one or two occasions, it could have easily gone quite south quite quickly. Okay. They haven't looked at the resources. Assembly 7, tactics 5, 4 munitions, which is quite low, 5 war funds. So the fact here is that with that many war funds, you can double up on everything. 1 black market, and the reason for 1 black market is 1 studied move to bring a mission back. And 1 logistics just for the odd restock, which, when you read the battle report, saved him a game.
And so we talked about this, the big advantage of this is surprise value. You never know what he's got in his hand and what's coming to mess with your mission. But it also runs studied move. And so I mentioned this earlier, I run 2 or 3.
2 or 3 would scare the out of me. I would run 1 tops, okay? The trouble with 2 or 3 is you run the risk that you start off with 2 or 3 in your hand and they're dead. They are dead cards in your hand because it says return a mission card from your scrap heap. You have to have played it. My advice to anyone new, if you want to try studied move, put 1 in a deck. Put 2 in a deck. Don't put more than 2 in a deck. And put 1 in a deck in a ratio of 1 to at least 4 or 5 other missions. The last thing you want is, as I said, a dead card in your hand.
He just runs 1. It means that even though it's a surprise what's coming, his deck still has some consistency to it. and maintains a huge toolbox besides. We talked earlier, he's got a bunch of jumpers. At any time, he can jump, studied move, and pull any mission he needs to turn that battle around.
And the missions that he's choosing that have the ability to do one way or the other, you're looking at heavy fog. You can keep your mechs alive off of a block or off of an attack if they have a surprise. You have risky combat jump, where you could jump, go bad, and then play a heavy fog. There's just so many different choices.
Remember that in a typical situation, the most important thing that you can do with a mission card is generate a kill where one did not exist, or prevent a kill where one did exist. So heavy fog in the right situation can prevent 2 kills, right?
Absolutely.
That's great.
I think even more risky combat jump.
Risky combat jump can prevent a kill and create a kill.
One. And that's why, even though we're going back to all our points, even though you use dice rolls, it is seen so much because no other card has the potential to turn a board around like Risky does.
This is another one of like the core ways in which the CCG does not model the board game. In the board game, the more damaged a mech is, the fewer weapons it can bring to bear. It would be a very interesting house rule to play. I don't speak for, I have no idea how balanced this would be. It'd just be interesting to say every damage counter on a unit.
Can you tell I'm not excited at this point? I think they missed the Forge mission order. You risky, you fail, you forge, keep your mech alive. The Blitzkrieg, which will get your damage through. And the Final Push, which does the same. Final Push was originally Superior Nav, and it got swished out at the last moment just so you could drop that last bit through. And given the number of long range in here, you could probably get somewhere in the region of 6 to 8 long range through if you needed at the end of the game.
Counts as a -1 attack counter. As an idea.
You know, I thought that exact same thing earlier on in our conversation where when Peter was bringing up the fact that, you know, units are max power until they're dead.
Sorry guys, much as I love you, it's a card game, not the tabletop. Don't confuse them.
You know, and I was like, what if you just -1 for every structure damage? So that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Or maybe like -1 for every 2 or something, because there's
or something.
Even simplify half structure, half damage. Yep. But yeah, it needs to be to a minimum 2 as well. It shouldn't be toothless. You know, you can.
Well, no, you can
go to nothing.
Jump blockers can still. But I would say something like, because a structure point costs half a resource and an attack point costs 1 resource. Like every 2 points of structure would represent -1 attack down to a minimum of 1, right? Yeah. Theoretically.
Okay.
So you have to have 1 so you could jump.
Or just so it's relevant. I mean, to use it as anything other than a chump blocker, because there's very few times, even in the tabletop, where a mech is completely toothless.
Right.
It happens, but it's not super common.
Yeah,
I like that.
Somewhere
I
they
like
could
that.
have gone.
That's a house rule that I would enjoy. There's another game out there that I play, in the Wheel of Time, popular, that every damage is 1 ability lost, 1 number of an ability lost. You choose. So that's consistent.
Awesome. There we go. We got a nice house rule out of this. That's good.
Anyway, we were talking about the singleton mission strategy and how some
Did I
of
miss
these
anything?
missions work well. I'm surprised that Overrun is missing. I would have thought if you have 1 forged mission orders and 1 studied move, then you should have 1 Overrun.
I've dealt with Overrun in a previous cast. It's nowhere near as good as people think it is. If you want to take issue with that, go have a read of it, go have a listen to it, see what you think. Most people don't play it. And if you really want to make a case for it, show me a top 8 Worlds deck that had Overrun anywhere in it, sideboard included.
Just for the threat, if nothing else.
I think, like I said, looking at this deck, this seems very optimized to me against Clan. Overwhelm, very anti-Clan card. Heavy Fog is an anti-Clan card.
Why is Heavy Fog an anti-Clan card?
Well, it strongly favors the defender.
It's a defensive card. Regardless of whether they're clan or otherwise, it's a defensive card.
Because it's not applied equally. they get -2 attack and prevent 2 damage. So I think Mark had a big article on this actually, where he used 3 Fenris Primes versus 3 Fenris Primes. He said, okay, their Fenris Primes now each do 1 damage for a total of 3. Yours still do all 3 for a total of 9 -2 for 7 damage left. So in that trade-off, your 3 Fenris Primes would kill one of his, and his would barely scratch yours. Heavy Fog works because it's not symmetrical. It looks symmetrical, but it's incredibly one-sided for the defender.
It's a huge good defender card, and Clan is so aggressive at the outstart.
Thank you, Gus.
You want to have the Saladins, you want to have the Heavy Fog, you want to have the Rocky Gorges and the maps, because Clan has a huge advantage at the beginning of nearly every game, generally.
The other thing I'll notice, I don't think he needs the overrun. He's got Blitzkrieg and Final Push in the main board. Yeah, and with the studied move, he plays like he has more of those than he needs anyway. So,
okay.
I love Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is why you play Merrick.
It's a top 3 mission in the game.
Blitzkrieg is why you play Merrick. It's right up there with the Jade Falcon or
Steel Talons.
Steel Talons. Yeah.
Vipers. Yeah, I think those 2 and Vipers will have me my top 3 in some order. Maybe Falsified Maps cracks that list. I don't know.
Steel Talons.
I love Steel Talons.
So that would be the top 5, right? Blitzkrieg,
Steel Talons, Viper's Maw, Falsified Maps. Good spots open for debate. I think it starts getting nuanced after that.
Risky combat jump.
It's probably risky, but
Or superior nav
or even overrun. I mean, it starts getting a little fuzzy after that. But
it's
those 4 or 5 are definitely the top missions in the game.
All right, guys, we've this is awesome content, but I think we're kind of turning into a pumpkin here. So, one thing I definitely want to do, I like to.
Okay, so that's the end of that. Basically, the deck list's gone. They didn't do the sideboard, and there were I might even let it run for a bit. But what I want to do now is actually look at Shyster's post. And again, this was to the Battletech list. Here you go, 11th of August. So his deck, 7A, 5T, 4M, 5 War Funds, a BMC, and a Logistics. The units that we've talked about, and the Rocky Gorge of Instant Death, Destruction, Maiming. And as he says, you can't call it a Merrick C3 because more of the units are not C3. It doesn't fall into any category. It's a bit swarmish. It's got mission cards. It's got a few free deploys in there. There's some jump mechs. There's some long range. There's some ECM kicking around. And here we go. I was calling the card Shyster's Anvil since I put it in the deck. I originally put it in so I could hunt elementals with it, although he didn't see any. As it turned out, it was a great mech against the free deploy Hollanders and Chargers. Again, it can stand up to those quite happily and kill them. Ronda's Highlander was the only mech I would change. It's too expensive. Maybe I'd put another Gallowglass in. Okay, so this is his battle report. This is what he remembers. And actually, let me just, I'm not sure whether this is going to be large enough or not. So let me just pop up Word. And we can get rid of that, and let's make the font a bit bigger so you guys can read it. Come on, that's better. So, oh, I hate that 2-page view. All right, so maybe I just take this down to 14. Okay, so round 1, he draws Bill Matthews. Bill Matthews is no chump of a player by a long way. He actually went there with Chris Lunt, who played pretty much a similar deck, which was a Star League pilot deck. I think Bill did play the odd mission. Chris Lunt ended up finishing 7th. I think Tim Davis played the same one. They went together as a kind of guys from their own town. So I start off okay. He gets Kai Champ on a Wraith. Yuck. But the first time he attacks with it, I block with 2 Owens and play a risky combat jump. So that's 6, 9 with a risky. And okay, fine. He's going to kill one of the Owenses. But most Star League decks don't play with mission cards, so he doesn't worry about a forged mission order, which would have absolutely slaughtered him at that point. And the Wraith dies, so does Kai, and one of the Owens bites the dust. Around turn 5, I was out of mechs and not drawing too many, and then he drops a Black Market Connections and starts bringing back all the pilots. In a few turns, he's got control and mech advantage. Didn't look good for me late in the game, as he's got me on the ropes. I have 6 cards left, and he's going to turn me next turn. He has 4 more mechs than I do, and I draw a Blitzkrieg. I count his stockpile. He's got 18. I can do 19. Gotta love Marek. That's a lucky win. Drawing a Blitzkrieg at that point. Okay, and maybe not being able to BMC for it, but he's behind. Okay. Game 2. He gets a great start with Kai Champ and a Venom on the second turn and attacks my assembly. And the only mech I've got out is an Owens. Too bad for him. I've got an Overwhelm, and the mighty Kai takes a quick trip to the scrap heap. And then I never saw another pilot for the rest of the game. So, the right combinations. Does he deserve to win that? I'm not guaranteed on that first one. Second one, yeah, it's got to be in the deck to play it, but maybe that's a bit of luck. Round 2, Jesse Calavarius. So let me just have a quick look at where people ended up. Oh, here we go. So let's just. So Bill Matthews finished 22nd. Jesse Calavarius finished 28th. Okay, so 2 medium-ish players. Game 1, I get a good draw, and he drops a 4th turn McMallet on a 3rd turn Thunderhawk. Ouch. He makes a few rolls, he misses a few, and I've got a Blitzkrieg in my hand, so I keep attacking his stock and blocking the Thunderhawk with anything that I can, even though it shoots 3 through, or just taking the hit. I can kill him next turn. If he doesn't kill me first, he needs to untap the Thunderhawk twice. So that's 2 die rolls at 50%, 25% chance of doing it one after the other. Or just guard. Maybe he should have just guarded. That could have been interesting. He untaps once and says go. Blitzkrieg, bang. Maybe if he'd have guarded instead of going crazy on that. Marek deck, always with the Blitzkrieg. Okay. Game 2, he gets 0 double overtimes. I start hunting the resources and killing the warriors that get in the way. If it wasn't bad enough, I sideboarded in the Arrow 4, taking out the Rocky Gorge. It kills his think tanks. So you can't scrap on someone else's turn with the think tank. Pretty much seen that there. That was ruled there, and I think the rule has been ruled the other way since. Okay. He can't scrap it for an asset because it's not during a mission. Okay, maybe that's my misreading it, misremembering it. And he got 3 on there, so he has to scrap them all next turn or lose them. So just keep going, 2-0. Round 3, Ben Moffat. Ben Moffat finished 14th. Forgot what he was playing. Last year, this guy, Psycho 122 or the Bob, was playing SRMA and he smacked me around. I got a bit of a slow draw in one game and found out how good Treachery was in the SRMA day. Game 1, he double mulligans. End of. So, really bad start. Game 2, he gets a resource hose, saw some work stoppage and arms reductions, I think, but his draws were awful. It shows how quick the games went. It's just there. Okay. Round 4, Chad. We know Chad ended up second. Right. Steiner free deploy. Game 1. He starts to do his free deploy thing, and I'm thinking this is going to be an easy match. How hard can it be to beat a Steiner weenie swarm? I haven't seen a good free deploy swarm since the days after Arsenal, when they limited it to 10 vehicles because the deck was too strong. Hollander, Spider, Yellow Jacket, Sloth Squad, Centurions, and the new, he puts Exterminator. I believe that's the Wolfhound, the Crusade, 1-cost Wolfhound. Puts out 4 units a turn with hidden reserves and keeps going. I get completely overrun without even attacking his stockpile. Wow. Okay. And that was written that many years ago. I sideboard in Gorges and falsified maps, but never drew them. Soon there are 10 units that do 2 damage on his side, and I have 4 units. I think to myself, in 3 turns I can take control of this game, and in 3 more turns I can win it. I count my stockpile and realise that the game isn't going to last more than 2 turns. Not good, unless you consider that if I'd have won this match and taken 2 draws, I may have ended up watching the final 8. We'll come on to that in a second. So, at this point, he has to win the last 2 rounds because there's no chance of making the top 8 with 2 losses or even 1 loss and a draw. It was a strange format. 1 loss and 1 draw should always make the top 8. Okay, so for reference, when we look here at number 9, Peter Sundholm took an intentional draw. So he gets 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, 1 point, and nothing. Okay. And because he took the intentional draw, he didn't quite get enough points. Chris Lunt, if you read his write-up on where are we? Part 2 of the good old Wayback Machine. Here it all is. He details in here about the match reports and also having to win his last match instead of taking the intentional draw. And he realizes, I think Tony Miracle talked to him, and yeah, here we go. Finish my first match. Tony made aware that players with 3-round buys made a mathematical error after winning the 4th round. They believed that they could all draw the final 2 rounds and make the top 8. They were wrong. I went in the final round with 4 wins and a loss, giving me 12 points, while each of the others had 13 at that point. Dave Hymas decided to play his last round, recognising that if he drew, there was a good chance he would not make the top 8 because of tiebreakers, and I had to play my final match against John Olsen, which is a very tense affair, as I remember rightly. So he's shysters in that case. He if he took 2 intentional draws, he would not get into the finals necessarily. Kiddo. So Virgil Bell. Let's have a look where Virgil ended up. Virgil Bell ended up 25th. Star League, C3. He gets an early lead with Pintos, but stalls on resources. I hunt his resources and my mission cards work like a charm, even when I block out of initiative, as the Star League is no match for risky combat and overwhelm, and it's over quickly. Okay. Game 2, I get a great draw and start with Owens and Saladins, back with Fire Stancers and the Anvil, then drop Gorge on my stockpile and he never attacked it again. I have lots of push, so I just keep attacking and it's over in 5 turns. Fine. Okay, and then finally, Mark Sickerman, who placed 10th in the end. Okay. He's playing Star League SRMA. Okay. In my playtesting, I couldn't beat SRMA more than 2 out of 10. Although I playtested against the Comstar version, which I think is better. Okay. That's the reason for the false maps and the rocky gorges. His deck could not beat Sandhurst at all. 2 out of 10 is pitiful. Strong against Clan. If we go back to all those lovely little metas, that lovely little set of meta decks, free deploy, there they are. He can deal with Merchant Cast. He's dealt with double overtime. He's beaten Alliance Pilot deck. There weren't any Dash Elementals or Smoke Jags. He beats Dash Wolf in the next round. He's beat C3 here. The ones that he struggles with are Free Deploy Swarm, which he's beat. Well, he lost to Chad. And will beat him in the final, as we'll see. And Free Deploy SRMA. Okay. So I figure I'm in trouble here. Note before I got on the plane on Tuesday, I changed one Saladin out of the deck and put the Gorge in the main deck. Last minute decision. So he had a bit of advice on that. Okay. He gets a good draw and hits my stockpile early. By the time I get Act 2, Owens is on turn 3. He has 7 units and send 3 charges at my stockpile. He's thinking that he has to disrupt the C3 network, which makes a lot of sense, and would have worked if it was not the fact that he has to assign damage first, being the Star League. So he overheats all 3 charges and deals 6 damage to an Owens. Oh dear, I play a risky combat jump, saves all the Owenses, and kills all the charges. Talk about Michael saying you play a mission to prevent a death or deliver one. That seems like 4 for the price of 1 there. 4th turn, I drop a Rocky Gorge on my stockpile, and he can't attack it again, and he just beats him down. Game 2, sideboard in 2 more Gorges and falsified maps. That's the full Monty. And take out Rhonda and put in another Saladin free deploy, more units on the table. I had a solid draw and got falsified on the 2nd turn. Game over for Sandhurst. He played a creative much later in the game, but by then it was over. Okay. 5-1, 5 wins, 1 loss, 10-2 for the game. I was in the top 8 at 5-1. My goal for the tourney. Anything else was elimination. Okay. So after that round, it goes to the top 8. Note that he's only played 2 players out of the top 8, and everyone else seems to be in about mid-20s. So that's a little generous, I think. Normally, you'd probably play another player, probably top 10, in that period of time. So I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just putting some slides on this. That game against Bill Matthews could easily have lost. Game against Jesse, whatever the guy's really long name was, could easily have gone the other way if he'd have guarded. Most of the other ones seem to be quite good. Okie doke. Single elimination, Jason Bryan, Invading Clans, Merchant Cast. Okay, this shouldn't be too bad. He plays Logistics and a Merchant Cast on the 1st turn, but doesn't tap the Merchant Cast to put down another resource, and the reason is he hasn't got any. So by the time he starts drawing them, I can hunt them with my Owens and Firestarter, which is not good for him. And the Huron Warriors at 4 are much better than his Black Hawk Bees at 5 cost. And away we go. Deck rolls like a charm. He gets a slow draw, never has a chance. Easy. Okay. 6-1. Round of 4, semi-finals. Dave Hymus playing Boomwolf. This shows how good a player Dave was. He hasn't lost a match all day. And when Shyster was sitting with Peter Sundholm, they were watching him, and he just says he's got an incredible sense of timing and intuition. Game 1. My draw is 2 risky combat, 2 assembly, and a Saladin. Bloody awful. It gets better, and I get an Owens. Risky works nice, and eventually I lose 1 killing a Phantom, and lose 2 Saladin killing another Phantom. That's a good thing with the Saladins. Alpha for 3 each, kill a Phantom at 6. Okay. Around my 5th turn, and note how quick these are. Turn 5, and he's 10 cards behind. He starts to attack the resources. I have a Gorge in my hand and put it on the resources next turn and guard the deck with the Shyster's Anvil. I attack his stockpile with my C3 because I need to get his stockpile down a bit, otherwise I won't have a chance of winning it. With the final push and Forge Mission Orders in my hand. Again, the final push was put in at last moment over the superior nav. Okay, so when it comes down to the end, I get his stockpile down from 24 to 17 with C3, and I have just enough left to draw next turn because I restocked playing 1 logistics. Okay, that's really close. Okay, so as long as he doesn't dash 2 mechs, I can block with what I've got left, have to draw 2 cards, and have 1 left in my stockpile. So he's right on the edge here. He doesn't draw a mech. He BMCs for a Phantom and sends all 3 Phantoms to guard his stockpile, and he's at 15. So 3 Phantoms guarding because of Blitzkrieg. Okay. I draw, I have a card left. I send a Glaloglass and the Marek Firestarter at the stockpile and play final push. Now, just for reference, when I can pull up Blackie, here are our Gala glasses with long range 2 and the fire starter. Which one is it? The Marek fire starter, overheat 3.1. Okay, playing final push, so that's 1 from the Gala glass and 2 more from each. So that's 4, 5 in total. And he blocks, and then I send the C3 to do 10 more, playing the Forge mission order. It didn't matter which way he blocked. I could FMO one group and final push the other. So you would always FMO the group where there was 1 unit, 1 blocking phantom, and final push where there are 2 blocking phantoms. So it is a win-win condition. Okay, but again, that's as close as you get. Sideboard in 1 more Rocky Gorge and 2 maps. So not the full set versus clan. Take out Rhonda, put in a Saladin. I drew 5 cards and get Assembly, Tactics, War Funds, and 2 Gallagher's. Oh crap, I'm done. He goes first and drops a Tactics. I draw a Hue Warrior, drop Assembly and War Funds. He drops a Tactics and a CUC and puts 2 on it. Says go, and I breathe a sigh of relief because it's not a dash of prime. Okay. He drops 2 tactics for a total of 4 tactics and builds a Fenris Prime. The game goes pretty bad for him as he basically resorts. I hunt his resources for a while and then the stockpile. Late game, he starts to hunt my backs and I block with a Saladin, include the mech that he's attacking, and play falsified maps to put Gorge in the patrol region, killing 2 phantoms, and at that point, it's game end. So, good play, close first match. Very close first match. Okay, final, best 3 of 5. Here we go. I knew if I could get Gorge out, I'd have a good chance of winning this one. Game 1, he gets a bad draw, almost all resources, and I don't. My Owens is hunt for a while and then attack a deck. Not even close. Game 2, same sideboard as last match, except I took out Heavy Fog and put in a Reactor Breach, which is deadly when he attacks in groups. His draw's okay, mine's great. Risky Combat, Huron Warrior, Saladins, and a Gorge. I get controlled in the mid game. The mid game is turn 5. That shows you how brutal a tournament match is. 5 turns. Galabrath does the rest. Deathblow was when he attacked with a group and I blocked with C3. Jump for initiative, played Risky Combat, and he loses 3 units and I lose nothing. Okay. Game 3, replay game 2, but the death blow is a false maps which took down a group of 4 units. When he conceded, I showed the final push and the Blitzkrieg in my hand. And there you go. I'm having a good day. And Peter and Dave call me the Gorgemaster. Okay. So, there you go. That is the feedback on the Gorgemaster. Some of the conclusions drawn here are, in my opinion, definitely incorrect. I don't think he was overly scared of clan. I think he had the tools to support what he'd already got for clan. His real worry was Sandhurst decks, which is why he played 3 maps and 2 gorges, and even put the gorge in the main deck. And that has always irked me because I always felt it was wrong, as are some of the other conclusions drawn in here. But it's nice to be able to have my say and well, say things the way I see them, and arguably from the digest, back them up with real proof. From my point of view, I'm not sure these guys had access to the list server, so in that case, you can't blame them for drawing any conclusions or making them. And I don't think that they understood or were aware of all of the meta at the time. As you can see in here, there's quite a fair bit of meta. As they've said, it depends on what the meta is like. So, it is what it is. But hopefully I've satisfied myself and dispelled some of the myths and had my own say on that. And that's kind of where I see it from my point of view. You might disagree. It's fine. Have a look at the docs. Have a look at the YouTube video. go back and have a say, look at the deck lists and stuff like that. So anyway, take care. Big bad word out there.